Well, it's Friday, everybody, which means it's time for our weekly live edition of Fantasy NBA Today. Those of you listening via the traditional podcast format, it's not live to you, but it could be. So next Friday, head on over to YouTube, the Hoopball Media account, where you can actually watch this show happen live. You can enjoy Fun Shirt Friday with an actual video accompaniment. So you can see the shirt instead of just the way we describe it. And you can ask questions if you so choose. I am Dan Besbris. And as always, on Friday, along with the fun shirt, I'm joined by Aaron Bruski, the founder of hoopball.com. Aaron, what's going on, man? How's the week been?
It's been okay, but I feel like I'm now taking a side seat, a back seat to your shirt. And so I'm not sure how okay I am with this, but, but we'll go with it.
You know what you need?
Are you going to show me the shirt?
No, I was going to say you need a fun shirt of your own.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have any fun shirts. I have actually, I have 3 fun shirts. When me and my wife did a trip around the United States, we stopped in New Orleans and we went fun shirt shopping. I bought 3 shirts way too small. Even at my peak physical shape, when I really cut down earlier this summer, there's no way I'm making it into any of these shirts. There's one shirt, I will drink your milkshake. And it's got a straw that goes across the shirt to somebody else's milkshake. There's a drinking related shirt. And then my favorite shirt, which was back in the day, I was the shit.
and now I gotta censor the podcast. Damn you and your fun shirts. Damn you and your fun shirts.
Well, you did it. You asked the questions.
I know I asked the questions. I gotta now timestamp this thing so I can remember where it was.
Are you gonna bleep it?
Yeah, I'm gonna bleep it. Well, we're live on YouTube. I can't bleep that one, but I can certainly bleep the one on iTunes. If you want to know what Aaron said, go back and watch the YouTube video. I'm guessing that you'll be able to figure it out based on context. And oh my goodness, there's the T-shirt.
All right, let's see this thing. I've been waiting at least 13 minutes to see this.
All right, look at this thing.
Right.
It's a weird one.
A hole.
Is that backwards?
A hole. No, a troll.
It actually says a whole moo ball game. Visalia.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. It's pixelated, so I'm not really getting the full picture, but a whole moo ball game. My God.
Moo ball game. So the story behind this one, and I told you guys, by the way, we've got Dawson Shine sitting in silence for this show. I don't even know if his face will show up on the screen, but he's chuckling. I can see that. I can't hear it. The story behind this shirt is sort of a weird one. This logo in the middle is actually the logo of the Visalia Rawhide, the minor league baseball team in Visalia. I worked for that club when they were the Visalia Oaks, and before the 2009 season, when they were deciding what to name the team, they had a number of ideas, and one of them was to name the team the Visalia Moo. They wanted to go cow themed. I remember that. They really liked cows. They're very big on dairy.
Is this what happens when there's one person in the marketing department?
It wasn't me. I take zero responsibility for this madness. So the name of the team was almost a sound, Aaron. It was going to be the Visalia Moo, not even a word.
And that shirt was spawned by this?
Yes, this shirt was spawned by the potential team name, which never actually occurred.
It's a vintage shirt, man.
Right? This shirt in like 50 years is going to be worth at least $8 or $9.
Remember Zach Lowe wrote an article about like it was like going to be the New Jersey like Sea Dragons or something.
That would have been amazing.
What was it? It was like, and then the logo was something hideous and out of the 90s, you know, like a really bad Raptors knockoff or something. And now all the materials though would be like collector's items. And I feel like, you know, this would be a really hipster sort of a thing that you got going on here.
I know. It's funky fresh, and it's got a pun. It's got a pun in it, and it also has the name of the city. They still use this font for everything with the rawhide, which is really difficult to read. Let me tell you, when this font's at like a size 7 on a tiny team roster, and I mean, I'm not an old man, but I am starting to get a little bit long in the tooth. And I got to go in and look at the roster real close, try to figure out what that guy's name is or what stinking city he played in. Anyway, but a whole moo ball game.
I can tell you look forward to this show, Dan.
I really do. I'm all jazzed up. The whole week I don't get to see anybody when I'm talking to them, and now look at that. Look at that lovely face. Aaron, you're like a cherub today.
I feel good. I mean, I've already recorded one show, the Cos and Brews show. We had the first 10 minutes of that show are just all laughs. And in fact, while we're talking, you should go and rate and review that show and give me 5 stars because the first 10 minutes are just to kill for. No, I feel good. There's sunshine. You know what? It's the sunshine. We've been getting a lot of rain out here. It's really, really been gloomy, and there's things floating by in the flood, across the street. We're just trying to survive out here. All we have is some a few sticks for warmth and some fantasy basketball.
Yeah, well,
that gets us through the days.
That's enough to keep me warm. That's enough to keep me. Oh, here come the questions, by the way. There was a little bit of a dearth of them before we got the show started, and now they're really pouring in. And here I thought we were going to have time to shoot the breeze. I was completely wrong. I'd also like to note that this is the last time you guys are going to get to see this sort of biblical amount of facial hair. That this is getting cleaned up next week. So
your wife won't talk to you anymore?
No, I actually have a college basketball game I got to call next week, so I got to clean.
They don't want old man Grizzly Adams calling the game.
There's like Rabbi Besbris walking in and doing the show. I don't think they're on board with it.
To like the top level and just really show up very, very rabbi-ish and see if they just notice.
I need like another 2 or 3 months to get to like full rabbinic beard. I can let the neck go in that case. It'll be a lot of fun. And right now, like Wooly Willy style, the top of my head is about the same length as the hair on the bottom.
Kind of got a Abe Lincoln thing going on there.
Yeah, very trustworthy. That's what I like. That's my facial hair says trust. So trust me when I say that we really could use a rating and review on this show as well. We've got a few more this week, so thank you. It's been
Dawson, did you hear that segue? That's the way that you do it right there. You just stay right on his hit. This guy does. He's a pro's pro.
I'm full of corn is what I am.
A can of corn. Did you see that Nikola Jokic highlight the other day?
Oh my God. I thought that was made up. Did somebody take that ball and magnetically transfer what direction it was going? Man. It looked like he was throwing it to the right. Even it was no look, and it was like his hand didn't actually go the way the ball went. How do you?
He didn't even care about the pass. He was just like, screw it. I'll just fling this thing up, and the other guy will slam dunk it in the hoop.
Yeah, how did he know that Kenneth Reed was going to drop out of the rafters at that exact moment?
They've been making that play quite a bit, actually. He is something else. He's like maybe top 15-ish passer in the game right now. And, being a big man, that's saying something.
Do you think he could change his last name to Sabonis and anybody would notice the difference?
No. Other than that Sabonis is kids in the league, and that might get a little awkward.
That's true. They can fight for daddy's love. That would be a really good storyline throughout the year as well. So you guys know the drill. We do box scores first and questions later. We try to get to questions that are a little bit more all-encompassing. So if you have a question that's like, hey, here's a 3 for 3 I've got on my table in a really weird league format, we might not get to your question. We might, depending on time. But just know that the more specific your question to your individual team, the lower the probability that we're going to get to answer that thing. As I was saying before, this is Fantasy NBA Today, a hoopball presentation. Rate and review us. I think we really, frankly, it's been a banner week.
You know what? I was going to say, if we get 100 ratings, I'll lower the price of the in-season premium membership. I'm not going to say by how much, but it's going to be a decent amount.
I think if we get to 100, we should just give it to like the first 3 people to do something.
Dan, what are you doing? Don't just offer stuff up. I said significantly. I didn't say all the way.
I want to go all the way, but it's going to be tough. I mean, we might not get to 100 until the last week of the season. So at that point, you could probably.
I don't know. I think you're selling our audience short, Dan. I think we can do this.
Surprise me, Audie. Feel good with positive ratings. So thank you to everybody that's already done it, especially those that have just done it recently. That is, again, it's like paying us. I can't say this enough, and I'm not exaggerating. It is basically like putting coins in my pocket because it makes the show go up the charts, and then we can sell sponsorships, and then Hoopball can do more things. Things are coming. Aaron, I got to bug you first before we even get into the basketball stuff. The Bruski box score breakdown. People want their bellies busted.
I know. And trust me, I know, Dan. I know. I wake up at 3 a.m. My wife's like, who's texting you? It's like, Dan, yelling at me about the box score breakdown show that's not out yet. Like,
my kid
tell Dan to leave you alone.
I won't. Tell her I won't. I can't.
I did tell her that, and she's a little miffed at you, but and you don't want to get Jackie on your bad side, dude. You do not want that to happen. No, she's good with you. No, the box score breakdown. So we have departments now. This is really, really, I mean, we have over 30 contributors and growing. And so every day, my day is taken up with meetings. And it's all, I say that actually, it's a really good thing because something new is coming up in each of these meetings. We're developing something new, like a new show, like a new DFS show, perhaps, or a new line of content like DFS daily articles. We're bringing on a lot of great talent. My God, we've got some good guys that have come on board, and we're training them up. Our technical group is developing tools that fantasy owners are going to love. I cannot say this enough. I am just massively excited for what we're building. So every day, we're pivoting into 2017. And when I hit the button on this thing, I don't want to half-ass it. Did you have to bleep that out? Can I say half-ass it?
I think half-ass is okay because that's on network television. So I feel like it's got to be the same.
Okay. Well, I don't want to half-ass anything. So I'm hoping, I want to say Monday, but don't quote me on it, Dan.
If
it's Tuesday, we will survive.
I was hoping I bugged you one night this week when there were only like 3 games, and I thought maybe you could crank that one out.
Actually, the big problem is it's been a terrible week for the flu. It has been a terrible week for the flu, and that's just it is what it is. I'll be all right. We will get this thing out, and it will be glorious.
I want the people to know that I'm torturing you the way that they would if they had a conduit to torture you like I can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that they would probably be a lot meaner.
I guess I can ratchet it up. You want me to be meaner?
No. You're plenty mean, Dad. Behind this friendly, trustworthy voice that you see. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. He has 23 personalities, people. He's scary.
Is that out? Is that movie out now?
I don't know. No,
M. Night Shyamalan's still doing stuff. That's what I took.
Is that who that is? Okay. He's made some really bad movies.
Really bad. But that's why when they were promoting this one, they said, from the maker of Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense and nothing else.
Those his last 2 good movies?
None of the other ones. He didn't do those. Here comes his next movie. Yeah, that was like, because there was The Village, there was Signs, there was Lady in the Water, there was the one in the elevator shaft. Devil? Is that what that was called? That one was a little bit better.
I don't know. I just think maybe he's living off of the number of syllables in his name. They
are many and they are repetitive. All right, let's talk about basketball. Let's do
it.
If you guys want some additional laughs, go check out the Cos and Brew show too. Those guys are amazing. Yesterday's we only had 6 games yesterday, and I wasn't expecting a whole lot of takeaways, but it ended up that there were more than I had foreseen when I looked at the card to begin with. We had our London game and our Mexico game on the same day, Bruski. So why don't we start with the international contest and then bring it back to the U.S., flying in stark contrast to everything going on in the world right now. We're going to start abroad with a game where nobody played any defense. Well, I mean, obviously Jokic took advantage of that situation, but what you think the British people enjoyed that ball game? Indiana and Denver just running up and down the floor like an all-star game?
Yeah, I'm going to go with because I had it on in the background, and there was in the fourth quarter when it was really out of hand, and obviously the game was no longer in question. There was some pretty cool plays that happened. Denver is full of confidence. I just thought it was hilarious that people were going out there, with their pitchforks and their whatever torches, trying to get on Michael Malone for everything that was going on out there. And having covered that coach for so long, not so long, but long enough, you knew he was going to make it right with his veterans, and that wasn't a huge deal. That they're going to bounce back. And a lot of this comes with winning. And guess what? When you play Nikola Jokic 30 minutes, things start to improve. So I think that they're going to be a fun little second half team here as they go. And their record will be, we'll look at it and think, well, man, if they could have just won half of the games that they lost in these kind of stellar or stunning fashion where they would just give away games. So they're going to be fine. I think fantasy wise, they're going to balance out. They still need to do a trade or two to really make things better. And then on the other side, you got the Pacers. And, I had question marks about Nate McMillan coming into this season. And then Paul George, he really has to develop some sort of a go to the basket move or game, because it gets bad when it gets bad. That's the life of a jump shooter. And they lack depth and they need a little bit more versatility out of their backup front court. So they got these kind of key issues, and not a lot there from a fantasy perspective either. Just a kind of a boring game all around, especially since nobody had them in lineups for a 1-game week.
Yeah, certainly if you watched the Monday weekly lineup show, you wouldn't have had them in your lineups. Dallas and Phoenix played the annual Mexico game, and we actually had some Mexico game records set in this one. Darren Williams had the Mexico game record for assists with 12. Tyson Chandler set the Mexico game record for rebounds with 19. I actually happened to have both of those guys in one of my leagues, and so I felt pretty good about it. And Devin Booker had 39. So he finally made some shots, but Aaron, he still didn't do anything else. Everybody's going crazy about the 39 points, and yes, that's awesome. You're never going to turn away a 39 bucket. 6 threes, but 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 1 steal. Doesn't he have to develop some other stat set? And it just, I'm not buying it. I don't think that it's ever really going to be there.
Speaking of Mexico and Devin Booker, did you see Nikola Jokic's stat line from that London game? I mean, this thing was just a thing of beauty. 22 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 threes, 6 of 6 free throws, 7 of 12 field goals. My God, I hope that you aggressively bought low when everybody else was panicking and telling you this might not be his year. No, the other game. Yes, well, it was fun. And Mexico City is a great place to play. Great crowd. And I thought these two teams put on a pretty good show. You're right about Devin Booker. There's a lot of question marks here. Now, he has been a top 40 guy in 8 cat leagues over the last 2 weeks. And the splits are, they're friendly, but this is what you'd hoped for if you bought him with a 5th round pick. And the turnovers are obviously going to drag that. I think he had 7 last night, looking here real quick. Yeah. 14 of 20 shooting. That's I think the biggest driver for his value, because he's never going to be a great stat set guy. He's not going to be a steals and blocks guy. And then it's really boiling. He's like kind of healthy Bradley Beal. 1 rebound and 3 assists. Well, I mean, Tyson Chandler at this point is just hunting rebounds.
Yeah,
that's gonna hurt everybody else. I mean, he's not gonna pursue shots to block, and he's literally selling out for rebounding position, and that's fine. That's what somebody his age should be doing. But it's going to hurt everybody else. And Booker, I think it's just we saw such a long slump early on in the season. He has to have a rebound. And when he rebounds, you're going to see these, and not in the rebounding sense and the bounce back sense. He's going to have these big games. Now, the question is, can he get the rebounds and assists? Can they develop an offensive system that actually complements the player so he can become more of a playmaker and more of an all-around player? He's young. He just turned 20. So I'm optimistic. He's a buy, not after the 39-point game, I think, but let him get a stinker in there and then try to buy low again.
Over on the Dallas side, we spent a lot of time talking about whether or not this club is actively tanking. And obviously, one game doesn't answer that question, but I think you and I, Aaron, are still firmly on the side that says that they are not tanking, at least not yet. There may come a time later in the season where if they stay 5 games out and we're, a couple weeks from the end of the season. But right now, they're playing their old goats a lot. Nowitzki played 30 minutes. Williams, 32. Wes Matthews, 38. minutes in yesterday's ball game. Andrew Bogut is back out again, so he's a non-factor at the moment. The two guys that I wanted to mention are Dirk, who seems like he's rounding into shape right now, and Seth Curry, who seems to be playing better and actually moved into the starting lineup yesterday, where the Mavs kind of, I don't know if you want to call it went small, because Nowitzki's still a 7-footer at center, but they went to a more floor spacey lineup, if you will. Seth Curry played well in that spot, and Nowitzki played well. They're starting to rein in shots from outside. They're not guarding anybody, but suddenly this team looks like they could be an interesting fantasy club.
Stability will do that for a club in the fantasy sense. It's hard to measure them against the game after a game against the Spurs, or probably the Suns, though, because the Suns have a lot of different problems. Dirk at center, I think that's his position going forward. I mean, you can't. I mean, unless you pair him with a Tyson Chandler like center, or an old school Tyson Chandler like center, or just a defensive center. There's not a lot of on the problem that you get when you put him at the 5 is a lack of rim protection, but you're kind of screwed one way or another if you're going to use Dirk defensively. So you might as well stick him at the 5 and take the lesser of two evils, in my opinion. So I think we'll see that as a trend going forward, and that'll open up minutes for the entire rotation. Seth Curry needs 25 minutes. He had enough for you guys to run out and grab him? Probably not. But this team will eventually succumb to injuries. And Seth Curry at 30 minutes is a guy that could get you top 100 value. So that, I think, is your upside. I wouldn't buy much upside beyond that. That would be a little bit too optimistic, in my opinion. And yeah, this team will play well. They will climb back up into this 8 seed race. They will try to stay healthy to do it. The one guy that I thought stood out was JJ Barea. 2 points, 5 assists, but not shot the ball well since returning. He has for 14 and 8 cat only. I think he has about 1 to 2 more games to prove himself that he can be at 20 minutes, this top 125, top 100 performer, because otherwise he's not worth holding. And so we'll be watching for that.
Moving stateside, Tyreke Evans, you said it was coming. And then, of course, yesterday the door kind of opened when Anthony Davis had to miss a game due to the hip injury, the result of Kyle O'Quinn hammer bashing him into the stands. And not only that, we also got Terrence Jones, who decided to wake up and just miss all of his free throws, but do everything else pretty well in that game, too. And New Orleans got a win, frankly, that they had to get if they're going to keep competing for that 8 spot in the West against a pretty darn bad Brooklyn Nets basketball team. Tyreke Evans, I believe he was ranked the #1 fantasy line of the night over at Basketball Monster with 29 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals, a block, only 2 turnovers. He made 2/3 of his shots and all 7 of his free throws. Isn't this kind of the high watermark for him?
Well, maybe. It's possible. I think that it's close because give him one more game, and then I think people will feel like there's no more question about it. I think there might be like 10, 15, 20% of people that, of a person, I should say, that says, yeah, you know what, I don't know if I buy it. Anthony Davis is out, but you want to sell him like today or after his next game, because people, even if they watch the show, they're looking and saying, well, I can get a month out of this. And that is going to be more than what we're talking about 2 to 3 weeks from now, when his name's all over the trade rumors and teams are going, well, you're looking at teams that are fully stocked and wondering, how's he going to fit in a low minute role? And, is he going to defer and all of that stuff? I'm really interested from the reality side, how a contending team intends to bring on a Tyreke Evans. And I think that a Cleveland Cavaliers, a team with a lot of veterans, that needs punch in depth, will look at that and say, okay, maybe we can work with that. But there's not a lot of great fits for a Tyreke Evans out there. But of course, everybody will try. So yeah, that's my thought process on Tyreke. Sell him now, sell him early while you can.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, and I think that's one thing that we pride ourselves on, Aaron, is that we're sort of, I hope most of the time we're about one step ahead of the game, because a lot of people saw this line and the reaction was pick him up. We saw this line, and for 2 weeks we've been saying you should have him already. Now our reaction is, okay, you got your moment, sell him. You had him, sell him.
We're flipping houses.
That's right. We're flipping houses, and we're 1 week or 2 weeks ahead of everybody else, and that's how you find value in this thing. Your boy Justin Hamilton went 3 for 9 yesterday. If he makes a couple of those shots, he actually has a decent ball game.
Yeah, and I thought I saw a couple interesting weird things. Like Trevor Booker held the ball and had Hamilton wide open at right next door to him, and Booker looked for the open pass, or not the open pass. He looked for the better kind of maybe flashier pass rather than just giving the 3-point shooter a wide open shot. So it made me wonder, like, how good is this team at moving the ball? You got a lot of young players, and will they improve with it? And how will that look in this kind of post? I don't want to call it post Brook Lopez, but as the year goes on, a guy like Justin Hamilton's going to soak up minutes when somebody like Brook Lopez goes down, or Trevor Booker, when he invariably, talk about a sell high candidate, when he gets hurt, because he gets hurt every single year. Anytime he plays extended minutes, he gets hurt. So what will this team with all their young players look like in terms of getting their, stretch five, the ball? And I think it might be a little bit of a struggle. And but you're right. If he makes a couple threes, he went 0 for 4 last night, then he has a classic Justin Hamilton line, which is the type of line that's been putting top 125 value on the board in very low minute totals. So that's why we love him. And he'll need to have like probably about a 2 to 3 game slump before we start saying, hey, maybe he's not going to be able to do it this year. But yeah, I was a little bummed. I wanted to see him have a big line.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about a guy where, okay, we obviously can't predict the future, but can the Nets really hang on to Brook Lopez this year? That seems like buffoonery.
I think this year is gonna be a great trade deadline. Like, it's been like 3-4 years. My big like not prediction but my explanation of why trade deadlines have been so bad is that the salary cap booming was going to be looming, and I'm not going to keep trying to rhyme.
Get somebody, right? Every team.
Yeah, I think everybody waited, and it was like, you know what, we can buy everybody next summer. And so why would we give something of value when all these guys are going to become free agents? And everybody's got money. I just thought that whenever you have the math equation was lopsided. You had pre-new CBA and the money was tight, and then post CBA the money is just extremely loose, and that kind of anomaly made everybody sit back and play it safe. I think now you have a lot of teams who are, you have your championship contenders and then like everybody else. And those teams, I think, are going to try to find ways to realign their long-term planning. So you're right, Brook Lopez. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. You don't want to just strip your team down in the name of tanking or whatever, but he's got like a 2 to 3 year window.
Yeah, and it's just not. There's nothing there for him in Brooklyn. Can we also talk about Karis LeVert, because suddenly his name is popping up all over the place? And we're getting questions about it now today as well. One on Twitter, one in the chat room. And I pulled up his numbers because I thought maybe I missed something. But this is a guy who, even lately, while he's been doing more, still isn't really doing very much. So what do we know about Karis LeVert? Because he had 10 points and 2 steals yesterday. That was basically his mark. He had a 19-4-5 game in a loss to the Cavaliers on the 6th of January. But other than that, he's hovering right around 10 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. That's not really a guy that we'd normally be talking about very much.
Why are we talking about Karis LeVert? I mean, he fell in the draft because of injury. So, I mean, that sometimes will cause people to believe that, there's something there. But he did go 20. I mean, that's not generally great odds at a good player coming, or probably a good odds that he turns into a great NBA player. I mean, stat set wise, I mean, he's not a big steals or blocks guy, coming out of college. So there's that. I don't understand, like from a fantasy perspective, these guys, like I get Isaiah Whitehead. I mean, the guy's stats coming out of college were really, really insane from a fantasy perspective, insane in a good way. And what's weird about Whitehead is his development has been, that he's kind of moved a little bit away from money counting stats and become a better all around player than we thought maybe he would be. But with Levert, I mean, some of that might come back to Whitehead spraining his knee and there being this potential for more minutes. Maybe some of it's that Jeremy Lin hasn't been playing and is probably not going to play for a week or two. I think that they're giving everybody in Brooklyn 20 to 25 minutes per game, and that's a worry. I just don't see the appeal here. I mean,
he's a top 200 guy. Even this whatever you want to call like a hot stretch that's got people talking about him.
Analysts get fixated. I think analysts get fixated on their guys, and if you get a high-profile analyst there, that like talks about a certain player, then you start to get questions. And that's
got to be it. That's got to be it, because his numbers over this stretch, where suddenly now he's a thing, is over the last 2 weeks, 9 points, 2.5 rebounds, 1.7 assists. That's number 185. Over the last 7 days, he's ranked 196. He's shooting 53%, so it's not that. 1 3-pointer, 11.5 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2.5 assists. I mean, that's like, I guess that's deep league stuff, right?
I don't know. I
even that is a push. Anyway,
some analysts just have opinions that suck.
I
don't know.
I'm not following it because our buddy Johnny on Twitter asked about it, and this is not, by the way, Johnny, we're not trying to call you out because
no, not at all.
You're asking the right question. You're asking.
I watched him the other day. I wanted to see kind of like what the hype was about, because I personally hadn't seen it, and I hadn't been a big Karis LeVert, watcher, if you will, and I just thought to myself, I said, he's got a long way to go. I'll watch him again, but just speaking strictly from a stat set perspective, there's just not a lot to hang on to here. I mean, yeah, he can maybe shoot a good percentage. He could shoot a little from deep. His free throws. Yeah.
So anyway, the questions that we got, and I'll bring those up now, and then we'll get back to the rest of the box scores. The better stash from among three guys: Karis LeVert, Brandon Ingram, or Dario Saric. And I would actually put LeVert as third on that list. And between the other two, for me, it's a little bit of a wash. I'd probably go Ingram then Saric.
Yeah, I like Ingram. I think that the Lakers got a ton of reason to develop him. He's shown some propensity for money counting stats. He's not quite there as far as like, is he going to get you 3 a game? I don't know. Maybe I think he'll kind of, if he's playing 30 minutes per game, he's going to get you close to 3 per game. That's good. That's a 1-1-1. And then as far as everything else goes, I think he will be, just an across the board contributor. I'm thinking like a top 75 guy for say March and April. And that's great. That's the kind of stuff that you can build a team with. Saric is a little bit of a mess because Ben Simmons is going to come back, and he's had some struggles getting easy shots. And maybe Ben Simmons can help him with that. I don't know. But, Saric is definitely somebody that we just thought would compile a lot of minutes this year, which he's kind of done, but it hasn't been great. And, he probably needs a trade in that front court to really unlock any value.
We're getting word on Twitter, by the way, that Josh Lloyd is also on the Karis LeVert bandwagon, and he's a guy that I generally trust.
Now Josh is a great analyst. Like he's the man. Like, and so, I mean, I'll give him another look based on what Josh says. It's other guys out there. I just think, don't know a lot, and, just sit out there and throw stuff out there.
It's easy to get locked in. I know I've got my John Henson thing going on, and that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. I just, I don't. With Henson, my love is that when he plays, he can get you 4 or 5 blocks in a game. I haven't really seen it with LeVert yet, and like you said, Aaron, when everybody's playing 24 minutes, nobody's putting up a fantasy line. So no, I'm not. Bruski and I are together on this one. We're not on the LeVert bandwagon, at least not yet. But it sounds like
and big Josh Lloyd fans.
Yes, colossal.
I mean, so like when Josh Lloyd says something, I'll actually go to film and check it out. These other guys that are out there, as Josh would say, they're no good.
Yeah, I like that too. In fact, I think we might be getting Josh back on at the beginning of February here, so I can ask him about Karis.
I did a really bad Josh. They're no good. That was better.
That was a little bit better. Yeah, I'm on board with that one. All right, so that's our Karis LeVert for now. Maybe there's some wiggle room there, but 25 minutes and 11 points is just not. It's not cutting the mustard. Chicago, New York. Porzingis is out, Bruski, and a sore Achilles is always a little bit of a nerve-wracking situation. It basically kept old man Nowitzki out for 2 months. Now, obviously, Porzingis is a much younger fellow, but in his stead, Mindaugas Kuzminskas stepped up with 19 points yesterday.
You hear that, Dawson? That's the pro right there.
All right, so I pronounced his name, but does anybody really want to pick him up?
Nah. I'm a fan of actually his game, and if the Knicks go way south and start tanking, then yes. But no, otherwise, I don't think, when they put it out there that Porzingis cannot injure himself playing on this Achilles and that it's a pain issue, what that tells me is that somebody's going to get fired if he goes out there and ruptures that thing. And so that's probably real info.
Yeah, I believe that. And we also had a Kylo Quinn sighting in that game for the second.
You know what's crazy? I have Kylo Quinn in lineups.
Hey, look at that.
I mean, he had a 4-game week, and in these deeper leagues, I was sitting there, and there's a lot of 1-game, 2-game weeks going on. It's like, okay, I got to just take a flyer. 4 games, he's got to have a big game once. That was it was literally throw caution to the wind, and it's paying off.
That is a pretty good roll of the dice. I think he's got 8 blocks for you this week already, doesn't he?
I don't know what it is, but it's been great.
But I mean, is this a guy you really use in any situation where it's not a maximizing games played kind of spot? This is what we've seen before. He puts together 2 good games and then he disappears for 8.
Yeah, it's so rough.
I'm not buying
it. I wish I could know the equipment manager in New York to get the real scoop and find out what's going on with Kylo Quinn, because sometimes he looks great, sometimes he looks terrible. And if you could figure that out, you'd probably make a lot of money.
Yeah, you really could. When he's good, he's really good. And he did it in 17 minutes, 24 the previous game. And Joakim Noah's playing right now through a sore shoulder. Obviously, if Noah goes down, the situation changes dramatically. But while they're both there, it's just, for me, again, it's not enough minutes where he can get going every once in a while. But in 17 minutes,
when you worry about him getting minutes, even if something does happen to Noah.
Yeah,
you just don't know.
It's a weird situation there. With Chicago, I don't even really feel like we need to go too deep on this one. Both Mirotic and Butler were out, so you're looking at a spot where these guys should be back soon. The flu bug is rampant right now, and if you're making a bunch of moves based on Chicago losing 2 of their rotation guys, then you better be ready to make some moves when those rotation guys come back. Lakers and Spurs. The Spurs, I'd say they shot the ball relatively well in this game. Is that a fair assessment? 61%?
I don't know. Did they miss?
Not much. Pau Gasol went 9 for 9 in this one, and he dunked on his former team. Pau Gasol went up.
I'll let you get excited about that. Yeah, Pau and Kawhi, 10 for 13? That's really good, man. And Tony Parker, I think that's probably the most interesting situation going on there, is him holding some semblance of good late round value.
Yeah, but as far as pickups and drops on the Spurs go,
this last night was really weird. Or not weird, just a lot of blowouts.
Yeah,
not a lot going on.
Injuries and blowouts. We did have another injury in the late game. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hurt his shoulder, and that cleared up a bunch of minutes for Stanley Johnson, who promptly scored 8 points with a block. We talked a lot in the fantasy community about Stanley Johnson last year. We haven't really heard his name much this season. Does he actually have the presence to make an impact on the fantasy side, or is he just going to be kind of that? Is he going to be their Andre Roberson on your What was the Bruski? What was that league called where you want all the guys who play the most minutes and do nothing?
Oh yeah, the whack fantasy league.
Yeah, is Stanley Johnson going to be a whack guy, or is he going to actually do something?
It might be the MVP. It's the same thing, man. If you got a big megaphone in this industry and you get all hot and bothered on a player and you do it for like 3 months, then everybody thinks Stanley Johnson's a thing. Like they watched the guy that did this watched the summer league game and thinks that summer league's all important and, gets in there and makes Stanley Johnson a thing for, an entire season. And it was clear that even if the guy gets 30 minutes a game, his stat set doesn't support value. It's like Nemanja Bjelica is a thing. Well, no, he sucks in a fantasy sense. He's just terrible. So you got to watch it at these big sites. If there's guys out there that like to tweet a lot of vines and stuff like that, and they put out stuff there, that's just like, it's just not good. That's going to drive value in the marketplace. And it's your job to fade that and get it right.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, I think that's actually a good pivot point because it is, and we talked about this on our trade special last week, it's important to know what information people are pulling and how accurate it is. So if you can find basically a glitch in the market, if you can find a gaffe where everybody is believing one thing and you believe something else, and obviously going into that, you don't really know which one's going to be true until after the fact, but there is an opportunity where even if you don't care that much about Stanley Johnson, you might be able to sell him to somebody.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure people thought Stanley Johnson was good and, flipped him for value. And yeah, absolutely. You got to, it's just like, I guess, the real stock market is, if like CNBC's out there, pumping up information on like whatever, and for a fact that info is not good, use that information to your advantage and, get out there and, and pillage, so to speak.
Pillage. Bruski does love a good pillage. We got 9 games on the docket for Friday night, and I happen to like fantasy angles in the early ones and late ones, and I don't care a great deal about the stuff in between. I'm watching Philadelphia. I know you are too. You watch every Philadelphia 76ers game.
Hey, it's fun now.
Yeah, they actually look pretty good.
It's a good show.
They are defending people. They took Jahlil Okafor out of the lineup, and now they're guarding people.
Know. Shocker, we're better now.
there's the mind. Oh, and then, of course, you got the back-to-back on Saturday, so you will probably see Okafor. I'm actually going to recall Saturday, Nerlens Day. He could go crazy in that one if he plays Embiid's minutes and some of Okafor's. But, I mean, I get ahead of myself, I guess. That's a game I'm looking at. I want to see how Brooklyn handles Toronto. I want to see how the rotation shakes out in Miami because we saw Dion Waiters play a lot in their last game and actually play a little bit of point guard for him in that one. Milwaukee, I'm always interested in who's getting the minutes out there. Is Giannis ready to go? And then in the late games, Cleveland, Sacramento. Can the Kings hang in with this one? Detroit goes to Utah. We get to see Stanley Johnson the day after we have this discussion. I like the early games. I like the late games, and the stuff in between to me is a bunch of those teams where you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird part of the season where you kind of know where everybody's at, and so a little bit of the intrigue that we saw from the first third of the season has waned a little bit. I think teams are now taking things very seriously, getting ready for this stretch where a lot gets determined as far as playoff standing and then what direction teams are going to go. They're not quite yet looking at the trade deadline, so they're all in a workers-like mentality. So it's a good stretch for basketball. I think you can get a lot of good basketball games. Fantasy-wise, Cleveland, Sac, not a lot to talk about there. Charlotte, Philly, not see that the Charlotte is kind of at full strength. Philly, we cover them all the time. TJ McConnell, hat tip to him, and he's definitely the starter. That's that much we know at this point in time. Really vibing with that team. Brooklyn, talked about them. Toronto, eventually people will be on the Bebe wagon. Don't know why they're not already there. We've only been talking about them for like 5 weeks. Miami, you're right. Dion Waiters. I don't think that he's going to be a great fantasy asset, but somebody's got to play. It's the James Johnson show there. Giannis, we did a lot. We did 20 minutes on Giannis at the Cause and Brew show today. it'll be just interesting to see if he can keep it up. I mean, I put out a buy low on Steph Curry on the website, and I basically excluded any player with a very long beard or the last name Durant. And basically, you have my green light if you buy Steph Curry low and go for anybody, including Giannis. And that's going to be, that's probably going to rankle some people. It's probably going to rankle you, Dan.
I do enjoy myself some Giannis.
I mean, come on now. Like, are you on board with my sell Giannis for Steph Curry take?
I don't know if I can get completely on board with that one.
It doesn't feel right?
No, it's that one.
It's like that Jokic deal. It's the Jokic. I'm not going to throw the Bruski guarantee down because that's, I save that for things like, the obvious stuff like Garrett Temple, Isaiah Thomas, stuff that I know is true. And I don't know that this is true. but I think that the percentages line up for Curry, and I just wonder if Giannis can keep it up. It's a lot of pressure on a young guy to carry the team and keep doing that. I mean, these are historic numbers.
Well, you can pretty much get anything you want for him right now, so at least there's that.
I think you could get that. I think you could get Steph Curry, no questions asked. And my thoughts are that the Warriors need to tilt their offense back to Steph in time for the playoffs. They've done enough of getting Kevin Durant involved. He has regressible percentages that can work in his favor. I mean, even stuff like the amount of pick and roll plays that they've run for him are just so low. I just think that it's classic regression territory right here. So that's my recommendation there. So, of course, watching this, I'm going to have a big interest because some of you guys are going to do this. And, I put the pressure, I put it on my shoulders and live with the results. So I'm good with this. I'm good with getting Steph Curry, who currently right now is in that 5 to 6 territory in fantasy leagues after having what I would consider a really down first half of the season. These are the things that dictate fantasy leagues and decide them, and the big boy calls. You could sit there and report that they're doing well. Well, nobody really gains from that. So I'm looking at that. Memphis, Houston. Oh boy, Houston's making me look dumb. I don't know what else to say about that. They're 31-10. They're winning 75% of their games. What else is out there? I don't know.
That's the long and short of it. Why don't we do some lightning round questions, huh?
Sure.
You were in such a good mood when this show started. Now you look angry as hell.
No. No, let's do some questions. No, I'm fired up. I like the questions. I'm you know what it was? I was looking at that Houston record and I'm like, damn, I'm so far off on that one. 31-10. I had them at way under 500. And I still think it's possible. I think that 1 to 2 injuries and this thing just falls apart for them. But I haven't been right on it.
Yeah, they've been
they've had injuries.
They're finding a way. And they're actually kind of defending people. Patrick Beverley's gone a long way towards that. And
Trevor Ariza is such a nice piece for them that it's working. Now, we'll see what happens if 1 or 2 pieces falls out. I thought Capella would be the one that they couldn't lose, but what do I know?
Montrezl Harrell. He just popped right in there as Clint Capella with longer hair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there still a chance to get early round value from Victor Oladipo?
It's a great question. Between the injuries and the way that it started off early, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's close, but it's going to be tight. In a 9 cat, it's going to be like top. I think he finishes top 40, over say between now and the end of the year. I think he does, but that's not very, I wouldn't bet my house on it. I think he could easily finish top 60 and make you lose that bet.
Are the Kings going to trade Rudy Gay?
I don't know. I would like to say yes. I think that Rudy would probably welcome a trade. I think that, it's the hard part is the Kings are in the chase for the 8th seed. And if they don't get something that can make the scoring issue for the Kings is the biggest problem. They don't have enough scorers. So even if Rudy Gay is at odds with the way that the offensive flow works at times, and he'll do some silly stuff out there, he still has the team's best net rating, and he's also, you know, one of their only reliable scorers. So it's gonna depend on how other teams handle stuff, and if the other teams don't handle their business and make a good trade possibility, that is, then I think he stays with the Kings.
Your favorite guard to own in Brooklyn besides Jeremy Lin? Patrick?
Yeah, well, I'll include Jeremy Lin in that list. I'd rather own Kilpatrick than Jeremy Lin.
Take that, Jeremy Lin. And
yeah.
Here you thought you were safe. You're not. Bruski's dumped you to the curb.
Did you see the video of it's Mandarin? Thank you for the readers for telling me what language it was.
You got called out on that. I saw that.
I owned it. I said, I know nothing. And, you know, I'm stupid. We're stupid. And, you know, and if more sites took that approach, they would probably get more respect. Because the guy was like, okay, as long as you know you're stupid, I'm good with it.
That is fair. As long as you would. It's like that sequence in Happy Gilmore where Adam Sandler has to go in and tell Chubbs, "I'm dumb, you're smart, you're handsome, I am not good looking," and he says, "All right, as long as you're willing to admit that." That's hoop ball right now.
Hey Dawson, it's a movie that was popular when we were in like 8th grade, like
torturing youth. That's also one of the things we like to do at hoop ball. Rest of season outlook, Bruski. Rank these guys: Gary Harris, Josh Richardson, Malcolm Brogdon, and Karis LeVert. He popped himself into another question.
Okay, so it's going to be Gary Harris, number 1. Good news on the groin injury. I don't think that's a big deal. And then you got the question really becomes Josh Richardson or Malcolm Brogdon. Now, I think Brogdon is really turning a lot of heads. And if you wanted to play the healthy guy over the non-healthy guy angle, it's a hedge bet is what it is. Now, I'm probably going to say Josh Richardson here because at a hedge bet, you know, for Brogdon to hit, it might be at a top 100 level only. I want to hit for top 50. I worry that Richardson can't get it because his efficiency is going to suffer. I think I'm going to rate him more in a top 60 to 75 level, both 8 and 9 cat. But I still like that upside because it moves the needle versus top 100 upside, which may or may not even appear in your starting lineup if your league's deep enough. Would you stash Chris Middleton, or Jared Sullinger? Not Sullinger, but Middleton. It just depends. Like if we're talking a playoff format, it's obviously way more viable to do that. And then as far as like, I like to measure these questions in a pure roto sense because then you can apply league rules as you see fit. In a pure roto sense, I do think right now is a decent time to stash him if you're in like the top, 2 to 3 slots and you've got some good depth and you can kill a roster slot. Because say he comes back after the All-Star break or thereabouts and gives you 6 weeks of, the first 2 weeks would be crap, and then the next 4 weeks would be top 50-ish to top 75-ish production. And I think they won't let him on the floor unless he can give that. Will TJ Warren or Evan Fournier turn it around? No, TJ Warren never had it going. I mean, he had it going for like 2 weeks, and the same analyst, out there got all hot and bothered over it, and now you guys ask me these questions. Aaron's so mad today. I'm so salty, dude. You are so salty today. Somebody's got to give Bruski a hug on Fun Shirt. You know why. You brought this up before the show. That's true. I got y'all feisty today. But Fournier probably, right? Oh, Fournier's fine. Yeah, he'll be good. You did this, Dan. You did this. The feedback is going to be rich. You did this. The feedback will be rich. Would you have Jared Sullinger over? And I can't believe that. I mean, it's the same name that comes up again. So I please don't. I'm going to try to keep the salt off the wound. Would you pick up Jared Sullinger and drop LeVert, RHJ, or Cameron Payne in a 16-team league? Ooh, that's a good question. Right? Good one. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't a good one. Okay, so we got Sullinger. In a 16-team league, Sullinger can be valuable. When's he coming back is the biggest question.
Yeah.
And then also, here's the other thing with Sullinger that's a little bit hard to gauge is if you're the Toronto Raptors and you're trying to make a run at this thing and you're trying to beef up the power forward position, that necessarily comes at the expense of somebody like Jared Sullinger. And so he might be in a different location, and there's a lot of question marks surrounding Sullinger. So I'm probably not bullish on adding him even in a 16-team situation where I think if he gets on the floor, he'll be plenty valuable, but there's just a lot of question marks there. And I don't think that they're going to do the Jared Sullinger stand at the top of the three-point line and be a stretch five and gum up our offense maneuver. I think that they got a great thing going. Don't mess it up.
This is a rare question. We don't usually get questions about big name guys like this, but our buddy Show Me the Money, I think, is probably trying to move some superstars around. Rest of season outlook, if you had to rank these 5 big name guys: Blake Griffin, Porzingis, Marc Gasol, Jokic. Why do I even throw him in there? Maybe I should have just asked you to rank the other 4, and Kevin Love. So underneath Jokic, Aaron.
Love can be in the Jokic discussion. I don't think for long. I think I got Jokic over Love. But I think Love is doing what he kind of did in Minnesota. Like they've found a way to make that work, and congratulations to them. And so I would go Love, and then I would go after that we got
Porzingis, Marc Gasol, or Blake Griffin.
I'm gonna go. This is tough because Gasol has his own injury history, but he seems to be the healthier asset. So, and with a slight amount of first round-ish upside if they, lose a Mike Conley or whatever have you. Porzingis, I think it's time to classify him as a bit of an injury risk. And I know that this Achilles injury we talked about earlier, that they can't re-injure it, but I think that it's possible that he's just such a unicorn that they want to just take every precaution with his future. So whereas with the Grizzlies, they're just like, they're trying to gun at being a playoff spoiler. And part of that is getting seeding.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Gasol, Porzingis, and then Griffin at the very end.
This is a tough one. So I'm trying to figure out a way to navigate my way through some of these questions that get a little more complicated. We do have a trade question here. David, we'll get back to that if there's some time at the end of the program, although we're already getting pretty close to that right now. This is a 4 for 4. So if you that question, it's tough to even remember the names. I have the chat room right in front of me though. So David, apologies. We may not get to that question, but feel free to post it either on.
Just speed read me the names.
Okay, speed read. Let's see what we can do here. Horford, Batum, Schroeder, and Tyreek on one side. Horford, Batum, Schroeder, Tyreek, Harden, Brook Lopez, and then 2 clunkers on the other.
Is the Harden side wins?
Yeah, you want the first rounder, right?
I want the first rounder, no matter what. There was nobody. No, give me the other side. The first 4.
Horford, Batum, Schroeder, and Tyreek.
Yeah, not even close. Harden all the way.
There you go. See, now we're getting into some goofy stuff here. What do you think about Kyle Korver? I'll buy myself 20 seconds to come up with the next question.
I think that he's going to have a little bit of a down period here as they try to figure out how to get him into his favorite sets. They're not going to run a ton of stuff for him, but they will use him. And then, of course, he's going to get a bunch of open threes when, the guys are out there breaking down defenses and things like that. I mean, it's going to just be a pure, shooters type of a situation. And, I just think his fantasy value, if it goes anywhere upward, it's only going up by a round or so. It's not, whoa, watch out for Kyle Korver. It's going to be, kind of a return to the previous version where he was a mid-round guy, more of a late round, top 125 guy is kind of where I have him pegged.
By the way, I got one of the users' names wrong. It's not Show Me the Money. It's Show Me the More. So this is obviously a Houston Rockets person. That's clever, by the way. And he made a trade in a league that has free throws made as a category of Harden and Oladipo, and he gave up Kawhi and John Wall. I feel like I like the I feel like I like the Harden side for free throws made in that one.
Yeah, he's getting like 10 a game.
Yeah, so that's okay. There you go. I know you love James Harden. You've sent some tweets to us about it. So yeah, the heck with it. In that type of league, I think you're okay. In a standard league, it's probably wouldn't have made that deal. Aaron, what do you think about starting to make trades exclusively for playoff schedules?
I'm good with it. I mean, I don't like playoff leagues for this reason, because this stuff really kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's the complexity of it steals from some of the.
Yeah, you work so hard.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're going to talk about somebody that's got, I don't know, I'm going to pull up if you're a premium member to Hoopball, you get a schedule grid that's very interactive. And, you're probably looking at that Clippers 5-game week in week 22 that would make a Clipper more attractive in those formats. But, I mean, it's just so crappy. By the time that week starts on March 20, we're already in a tanking season. So like that's your 5-game week on the schedule. That's the only 5-game week in the last 4 weeks 4 weeks of the season if we count the very last week. And so you're going to target them Clippers. Well, I got news for you. They're probably going to be resting guys there too. So that's probably a 4-game week for a few of those guys. Where do you go with that? One of the cool parts about our planner is that you can get you can enter the week that your playoffs start. Pardon me. And then when you do that, it'll tell you how many games each team has. So like I'm looking at starting, in week 21, the Nets have 17 games. The Cavs have 17 games. The Mavs have 17 games. And the Milwaukee Bucks have 17 games. The Spurs have 17 games. Washington has 17 games. So my advice to you guys is if you're in playoff leagues and you're trying to make trades is to get a good schedule grid and target teams like that. And what are we talking about? The differences between the high-end teams and the low-end teams, having 15 games during those spans. That's, not a huge swing. It gets big when you start looking at 1 week, like championship week. Like the Clippers, for instance, have 2 games in week 24. And I hate leagues ending in week 24. I feel like if you're in a playoff format and it's, if it has anything more than 50% of the prize in those leagues, I think that you've got to be somewhere in the ballpark of like week 23 or week 22. And it just shaves so much of your season off. I mean, the trade deadline and all-star break ends on, the week of the February 20th. So you come back and it's February 27th. And then you just turn around and 3 weeks later is when you can guarantee that players aren't really being rested. It's just, I hate it. And it's not going to get any better. Player rest is on the league's mind. It's something that teams are more than willing to do. And I just think it's bad for fantasy leagues. So I'm personally not a big fan of the playoff format.
Will Al-Farouq Aminu and James Johnson keep up their pace? I actually think so.
Aminu is I'm softening on my anti-Aminu stance.
Yay, welcome.
And I knew you'd be happy about that, Dan.
I am happy about that. I like when we agree. That makes me happy.
Well, you know what it is? I think that they really need him.
They really.
I mean, because if you're going to run that backcourt out there, you've got to have the best defense possible behind it. So he's going to get more minutes, and I think that that's going to come at the expense of some of these other guys like Ed Davis and Myers Leonard and even like you have to take away from guys like Alan Crabb, who's been pretty good lately, but and Evan Turner, who's also been pretty good. You have to take away from those guys to make sure you have defense on the floor. It's a tough problem that they've got there, and they're going to have to find ways to get good defensive players in the door. And otherwise, they don't have a good combination. I've been saying they've got to trade CJ McCollum for a while now, and I think Zach Lowe said it in his column today that they might have to look at doing that to make sure that they work as a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on board with him as like a top 125 guy, and then James Jones, I'm all in, or probably James Johnson, I'm all in.
Chris Penfield asked about Seth Curry and J.J. Barea. I think we did address that while we were talking about the box score. So hopefully, Chris, that answered your questions earlier on.
Go back. Was that about the 25-minute mark?
Basically, just about which you'd prefer to own from now to the end. But you talked about Barea.
I'll go JJ.
A couple weeks there where you're looking at him, and Seth has kind of a cap where you sort of already seen that settle in. You, Johnson, you posted a couple of trades here. We're going to try to blitz through some other questions. Again, if we have time at the end, we'll come back to it. There's 2 of them, so I don't want to take away from some of the questions that have a little bit more of that broad appeal. 8-cat roto, Aaron. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Yusuf Nurkic, Chandler Parsons, or Josh Hamilton? Justin Hamilton, excuse me. Josh Hamilton's a baseball player.
This is 8-cat?
8-cat roto.
8-cat roto. We had J-Ham, Parsons,
Nurkic, and Rondé.
Okay, so I'm not on board with Rondé. Nurk, I am on board with. I'm not on board with Parsons, and then J-Ham. I would go in an 8-cat league. Nurk has this high-end sort of upside, and he's helped in 8-cat significantly. And I also think that he makes most sense to trade. And if you land him somewhere and he could even get 25 minutes, I mean, we're really talking about a potential for double-doubles with not lots of good steals and blocks. And so I like his raw upside, whereas with Justin Hamilton, he's more of a 9-cat guy. And it's more of a math equation thing where he has a good stat set, and that you can get a good baseline with some nicer but more subtle upside beyond that. So I'm gonna go with Nurk, J-Ham, and then my other 2 guys were Parsons. I'll go Parsons after that. And who fell in last place in that?
Rondé takes.
Yeah, unfortunately, as constituted right now, can't get behind that.
Okay, so I'm putting a 3-minute timestamp on the remainder of this program.
Let's go lightning round.
So we're going full lightning round. Who has more rings in fantasy sports, Aaron Bruski or Dr. A?
You know what? Dr. A has he's the godfather, and he's taught me virtually everything. So I'm going to go with Dr. A.
All right. Well, you'd know better than the rest of us. Will Ben Simmons hurt TJ McConnell's value?
Yes.
Should this user trade Darren Collison in anticipation of him potentially being traded?
No.
Rudy Gay or Gorgie Jang?
Jang.
This is awesome. I'm having so much fun with this lightning round. We're actually going to get through all these questions. Everybody else, I'm probably pretty happy as well. We got another question about TJ Warren. You already nailed that one. Better stash, Yusuf Nurkic or the Manimal?
Nurkic.
Al Horford or Otto Porter? There we go. I put a bolt into you with that one.
Porter.
Wow. He's having quite a year, by the way. Can we stop for a golf clap for Otto?
And here's the thing. He's like Kawhi. We haven't even scratched the surface here. He's not as good as Kawhi, but the stat set and the fact that he's the only one that doesn't have any real reason not to play down the stretch. If this thing starts to tank for whatever reason and or other guys get hurt, he's just going to get more opportunities. It's Porter. It's scary to say that, but it's Porter.
CJ Miles versus Alan Crabb versus Marvin Williams.
Marvin Crabb, Miles.
Oh, you gave me all 3. I was just going to ask you to pick one of the 3. That's pretty good. If Porzingis is out for an extended period, are you picking up Kyle O'Quinn in a league where you're not just trying to maximize games? Like a roto league.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, might as well. Screw it.
And I think that was it, aside from that one trade question. So we did those other ones so fast, Aaron. I'm going to hit you with these 2 trades.
All right, let's do it.
You conquered the lightning round today. Russell Westbrook, Pat Beverly, and Ryan Anderson on one side. Westbrook, Beverly, Ryan Anderson. For Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, and Julius Randle on the other.
Oh, it's going to be that Chris Paul, Damian Lillard side.
100% with you on that one. The other trade is Jimmy Butler and Nerlens Noel on one side. Butler and Noel, Pau Gasol, I should say, and a Nikola Jokic. I think I know where you're going with this one.
Oh boy. So we got those two, and then on the Butler side was Noel, and the other side was Powell.
Powell and Jokic for Butler and Noel.
It's close. It's really close. It's really close. Because, I mean, you really got some equal assets here.
That's a good trade. Look at that. A fair trade.
I know, right? Now, I want to see how high Jokic can climb. I'm going to go Jokic. I just think, like, first of all, he didn't even foul the other day. We unexplored, like right now, Jimmy Butler's got that needle buried in the red, and that's as high as he's going to climb. If anything, he's got free throws that are going to come back to reality. With Jokic, we just don't know. I mean, he's not even really truly featured yet. It's his efficiency is his hallmark, and the fact that he can do everything, it's really unheard of.
Yeah, it really is. It's unbelievable. That was it. We got through all of them. You did about 8 questions in 4 minutes. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Maybe if you tell me to shut up more often, I'd get through more questions.
You heard it. He said it, folks. I didn't say it. He is the salty Aaron Bruski. I am actually still in a good mood, and I'm Dan.
I'm in a good mood. It's just, you bring up that one analyst, and
Do you think the world knows that there's a beef, or did we just air it out?
I don't. Maybe they do. I don't care. It is what it is. Hey, if that person's coworkers would stop messaging me, maybe we wouldn't be talking about this stuff.
This was Fantasy NBA Today, the week gone by. I am Dan Besbris, at Dan Besbris on Twitter. He's at Aaron Bruski on Twitter, and that's also his real name. The man sitting quietly wondering, is this really how things are done at Hoopball?
Dan, also your fault. Dawson, I did, and I was telling before you showed up, I said, just attach yourself to Dan Besbris's hip. He's a pro's pro, and then you came in and you just lit a fire, Dan. You just lit a fire all over the place.
I got to get you revved up for some show material, and I got to tell you, we certainly covered some material today. The weekend is upon us. Have a great one, everybody. Aaron will be back with you on Sunday night, the Bruski Waiver Wire program. That's for premium subscribers. Aaron and I will be together on a premium show on Monday. That's the Weekly Lineup podcast. And then I will be back with you on Monday to start an action-packed week here on Fantasy NBA Today. We've got so many guests lined up next week, I can't even remember all of them. We've got Lord Welsh will be on the program. We've got, I believe, we've got Ethan Noroff from RotoWorld to be coming on. He's a really good,
great Ethan Noroff. That is a high-quality individual right there.
He is later on in the week. We've got our usual Wednesday show with Zane. We've got David Kleiss from Kleiss Hoops on Tuesday. That's the one that I was forgetting.
That's a name, by the way. Those guys have been doing it in fantasy for years.
So next week, I got to do a lot of prep work. So, stop tweeting at me for like 4 days, and then I'll be back when next week is done. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Throw a rating our way if you like the show. If not, then just post it on Bruski's website. I'll talk to you on Monday.